Well, hi, Greg. Let me start off and say congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. And how are
Yeah.
you?
What'd you say?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy. I started a new job a few months ago and it is busy, but I'm good. I can't complain.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. All right. So before we get started, do you have any questions or are you like ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
Okay. All right. I will, okay, so I'll just kind of share what I'm doing. Um, so I am a life and a leadership development coach, but I also, as you know, work in corporate America and, through my own career path of trying to get to second line leadership and doing all the things that you're supposed to do. I have a lot of conversations with either clients, mentees, or friends about just the struggles that we go through when it comes to being in corporate America. And sometimes how it can be very challenging when you are Black, specifically, but then also you do everything that you are quote unquote told you're supposed to do and you don't get anywhere. And
Right.
I've had some of those experiences myself. So when I saw your post, I was like, it just resonated with me because it's so many people's story. But with other generations, those individuals don't always leave, right? But it's a new day for us. And as you can see, our generation and Gen Z like are really setting the standard and expectations based on when you don't feel valued at a company, like you can leave. You'll choose your peace over staying with a company. And I have a few people that I'm close with who have experienced this in multiple industries. And I'm just so grateful that you agreed to kind of talk to me about it. This is going to be one of the first of my podcasts that I'll share with, and also my YouTube channel. But I want people to hear that when you think about peace and purpose, we don't have to do the same thing that was done before us just because we had to get a paycheck. And
Right.
that is the one thing that all of it resonated with me. So before I get too passionate about it, I just want you to, with, you know, how you tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I know you, but like just a little bit about who you are. You don't have to get too personal, but who you are, how long you had been in, the industry, even some of your educational background to kind of get you prepared for corporate America.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I am Gregory Richard, a graduate of Jackson State University in May of 2005. Whenever I graduated Jackson State, I already had a job waiting for me here in Dallas, Texas. I started on that job maybe 7 days after graduation. And I've pretty much been with the same company ever since. The company was bought out by, the original company was Nortel, but it was bought out by Avaya about 5 years later. And they carried me over with the buyout. And I've been working in the telecommunication industry, but more specifically on a software that records phone conversations and it records screens or video, and it makes it into a play out format that people could use like whenever they're signing contracts and things of that nature. So I've been working on the technology behind that pretty much since 2005.
That's pretty huge for you. And just thinking about you being competitive, I want to point this out there because tech is the way right now. I don't care what industry you're in, everyone is talking about tech. When you think about LinkedIn, and I hear some of my friends who are in the tech industry, they're getting people reaching out and they've only been on a job a few months. So you are in a position where you are extremely competitive and you would be like a perfect candidate for most organizations. So that alone, that speaks volumes. That
Well,
tells a lot. But okay, so you have tons of experience
yes.
with Avaya. And did you have any promotional opportunities within the 17 years? Like what was some of the roles that you held?
The funny thing about it is whenever I switched from, or whenever the buyout happened from Nortel to Avaya, they carried me over and it was just a mere change in title from, let's say, customer support to technical support engineer. And then you go up in ranks from there. I ended up being the team lead and subject matter expert within my team, but ultimately still serving in the customer support role as a customer support engineer, just as the team lead. And I worked with engineers in Canada, India, and the United States. Now, as far as specific promotions, my career was definitely hampered in the fact that I served as my senior manager's official backup for at least 2 years, but almost 3 years. And whenever she left the company, I was supposed to kind of evolve into that role or take over her role. That wasn't even offered to me. They had another manager to come in, and I had to train him on how to manage me. But I had some other counterparts that started, let's say, back in 2005. One guy in particular, he started 2 weeks after me. Whenever his senior manager left the role, they just automatically rolled him up into that position. So I didn't have those type of opportunities that were afforded to other people in similar situations that I'm in right now or was.
Okay. You know, that so many people talk about training somebody to take their job, basically, right? Because you've shown that you can do the job. You've backed up, you've been backing up the senior manager and you've shown them that, but yet you're not given that opportunity. So when you came to that place where it was like, enough is enough, I choose my peace, what did that look like for you?
Um, I don't know. This is probably going to get a little personal, but I'm okay with telling the truth. So the position or my manager leaving, that happened in July or June of 2021, which was last year. In December, I was expecting to get another role within a different organization. I had already talked to the hiring senior manager, and they were actually looking forward to me moving over to that role. And weeks went by and I didn't hear anything. Apparently, the manager had talked to our leadership and they canceled my move over to that organization. So here I am. I was in a situation to where the role that I should have been offered, which was a senior manager within the recording products, that wasn't offered to me. I reached out internally to find me another position because I had been working in that role 15 or 16 years at that time. And whenever I tried to move, that was taken away from me as well. So in February, they positioned a promotion to me to move up as a solutions engineer, which I thought was pretty good. It would have been a different role. Come to find out, they wanted me to work in that role, plus keep on with my duties of the previous role. And I tried to do it because, like you said earlier, we tried to do what's asked of us. And it was my job. They were asking me to do it, so I did it. But that led to a lot of stress. And it was a continuation of the stress that I had been putting up with for the last few years, acting as a senior engineer and also the official backup to my senior manager. Because on some days, I had to fully do both those roles at the same time. Whenever I was asked to perform as a senior engineer, those days were pretty tough because I was reporting to two managers at the same time, and neither was aware of the work that the other was given to me. I was literally in a position to where I was performing in two roles. So that only lasted about 2 or 3 weeks, and I ended up having to go out on FMLA leave just due to stress and anxiety. I had already been in a situation to where I was trying to manage my stress the best I could before, actually even before getting the senior solutions engineer role. Whenever I coupled the two together, it just became way more than I could handle. I was very overutilized, but I still tried to do my best. And I couldn't do it. I had nights to where I was having anxiety where I couldn't go to sleep because I was worried about the work the next day. Um, it just wasn't a good place and position in my life for all of that to be on me, because a few months earlier I had just lost my dad. So it was just a lot going on. But I tried to stay true to my commitment to the company. I had been there since college. I felt a certain level of loyalty to the company. Um, and it simply got to the point that so much was on my plate that I could not do it anymore. I was actually seeing a therapist at the time, just trying to get a balance back in my life. I had started seeing her the previous year, and it transitioned from me dealing with the passing of my mom to now, what do I do with all this work that's on my plate? How do I truly manage it? Because I had high expectations of myself. I'm sure, as we all do. It just became too much for me to kind of manage on my own. So it got to the point where my therapist suggested that I actually look for another other work or another job. And since I felt the loyalty to my company, I didn't want to take that big leap because it's such an unknown situation, especially since I worked at the company since graduating college.
That's all you knew.
So I went on FMLA leave to kind of get a balance back in my life, to find like better tools to deal with the stress and anxiety so that whenever I went back to work, I would be able to handle the situations that they throw at me, whether it's performing in two roles or whatever the situation was. I thought that time away would allow me to gather the tools needed to be able to face those duties. I got back in, let's say, April, and my piece only lasted a week. I had one manager telling me to do one thing, another manager having me to do other things. On top of that, I was also working the on-call shift, which was after my 8 to 5 shift, I had to be available from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. to get a call anytime throughout the night. And that was 2 weeks at a time. So I was working all week, 8 to 5, plus being available from all night. And then on the weekends, I was available 24 hours, that I could get a call at any point. And those were in 2-week chunks. And I just never could grasp my peace. I could never get to a point where I felt like my head was at least above water. I always felt like I was gasping for air just to kind of maintain, I don't know, a level of work product that I would think was kind of minimum, but it was just so much on my plate to do. That's all, I was able to do. So we're into April now. May came around and I was working crazy hours, and I just could not get any peace. I went to my senior director. I asked him, because I worked closely with him and actually leadership in my function as senior manager whenever I was backing up my old manager. I asked him, is there any other role that I could, be placed in? He actually, on the phone conversation, seemed very, very motivated to find another position for me. However, he scheduled 4 or 5 meetings with me to discuss these potential promotions, and he canceled every one. The day that he canceled the last one just so happened to be a day that I had to deal with a customer, and it was a bad situation, but it was not my fault, but it was my company's fault as to what we had to discuss on that call. And I was so stressed out. And then I got the meeting denial from him. I just couldn't do it anymore. I prayed. Um, I wrote a potential letter of resignation. I prayed again. And the second time that I prayed, I had so much peace about what I'd written because I knew that at that point I had given the company everything that I had to offer. And I felt at peace with not being at a place that would take me through so much. And I sent the letter off.
So when you hit the send, how did you feel?
I felt a sense of peace. That's the only thing that I could describe because although I sent the letter off, I wasn't resigning until another month and a half because I cared about my customers so much. And I knew that me leaving, even within 2 weeks, it wasn't going to be enough time for them to get at a base level to be able to continue supporting the products in the manner that they needed. So I gave my company a month and a half notice. And I just told them that in any given day, I'm going to just know that I'm going to be doing the best that I can in that day.
Now, Greg, you done touched on a lot of things. But I will say the fact that up until the very end, regardless of, and I want to be very clear, based on your post, you were taking on the additional task, doing more than one job, and you did not get a salary increase, right?
That's correct.
So so you were already taking on additional tasks, but then it was official additional tasks without a salary increase, and you gave them 100+% until the very end. A lot of people don't do that. And, just my career in leadership, I've seen it where it's like, once you put that resignation letter in, they're checking out. So that speaks volumes to your work ethic. But I want to go back to you talking about going out on FMLA. And you're a man of faith.
Yes.
And so this is a really, really good topic for you to be able to identify stress and anxiety. I know I've had personal experiences with anxiety, and I've been referred to read certain scriptures and read certain books, but it's real, and sometimes I had to pray through it. But I want to talk about that from your perspective as being a man of faith and working through that, because we don't expect that, but when it comes and it hits you, sometimes you can't control it.
Yeah.
So when you were the stress and anxiety, was it just keeping you up at night? Was it impacting your work at all? Or even the relationships that you have with others? Did you notice, any impact in other areas of your life?
Definitely, actually in all of those areas of my life. What led up really to my FMLA leave, I have I have a lot of friends here in Dallas. One friend I just did not hang out with, and we would normally go get a bite to eat or something. And I just wanted to work. By the time I got off work, I was so mentally exhausted, I didn't want to deal with anything else. And it got to the point he was like, well, I'm about to go buy a TV at Best Buy. You can just roll me up there to get that. And if you don't, he was like, if you don't come with me to Best Buy to get this TV, I'm gonna come and kidnap you. No one had any idea what was going on in my life because I think I'm really good at kind of keeping things to myself or keeping, I don't know, I don't publicize other things other than, gym, cooking, stuff like that. But a lot of personal things I keep to myself. So I ended up going with him to get the TV at Best Buy, and he knew something was off with me. He was like, "Ray, are you okay? Just something seems off." And then that's whenever I went into discussing about things that were going on with my job, how stressed out I was. Just, I just kind of put everything on the table, what I've been experiencing. And he was telling me about how his manager went out on FMLA leave and asked me to look into it. And that's how that came about. As far as the areas of my life that it affected, I wasn't really, like I said before, I never got to the point where I felt like my head was above water at work. I felt like I was constantly struggling, even though I was doing a lot of what they needed me to do, and they knew they had too much on my plate. So they were just happy to get the product that I was producing. The reality of it is that it was really harming me mentally. Um, I'm the type of person. I go in my garden. I like to go fishing. Things. I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't. After work, I would fix something to eat or order something to eat and just kind of stay in my room or lay on the couch and watch TV. So I never felt like my head was above water at work. After work, I didn't want to do any of the things that brought me joy. And it was just a repetitive cycle. And then at night, I couldn't sleep because my mind was focused on what I had to do the next day, or how am I going to resolve this issue, or just wrapped around work.
You so I get, right, you keep things very personal, but you do also share like a lot. Like, we know you love to go fishing, we know you can cook. And if, on the outside looking in, like, I thought, like, when I look at your garden, to me, that's like a self-care routine. That would be a part of my self-care routine. So I felt like that's like your place of peace. Like, I
Yeah.
can absolutely tell that. But it's so interesting to hear that on the outside looking in, people, we never know what even our strong friends are going through. And it takes a friend like yours to be like, something's not right, and being able to identify that. But sometimes we miss that because we mask it so well. And I think it's important just for people to understand that just because somebody appears to be doing well and they have it all, like, you don't really know what they're going through. And it's good to check in with your friends, because all of this is a shock to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the food looks great, the garden, and I know you take much pride in your home. So all of those things, it really tells that there's so much more to people that we don't understand. And when the manager kept pushing that meeting back, and in your post you talk about when you get the answer of not being valued, how did that make you feel when he kept pushing it back? And at what point did you realize, like, this company does not value anything that I bring, knowing that they need you? At what point did, like, it hit you? Like, that was the final straw?
Um, on that day, it was a combination of things. It was like the perfect storm, because not only did he push, I think there was a fifth meeting, and it was a one-on-one, and it was with the senior director. I've known him since 2005. I actually went to his first wife's funeral. So this is a person that knows my work product. And I've worked with him directly many a times. Um, the reality of it is that I think my company needed me in a all-purpose type position, because there were different aspects of there was this different aspects of what I produced that they needed, and they knew that putting me in a senior manager role would eliminate some of the asks that they could get from me, or some of the requests that they could get from me. Um, so I think that it was beneficial for them to keep me in a position that they had me in versus allowing me to flourish within the company. Um,
Mm.
but specifically on that day, it was a matter of the canceled meetings, but the stress associated with the things that I was currently dealing with. I knew that on that day, I couldn't do it anymore, because this is me trying my best, not for a month or two. Uh, it had been about 4 years since I was actively seeking some type of promotion or some other type of role. And then 3 years as the official, well, almost 3 years as the official backup for my senior manager. Um, and nothing ever came of any of that. All the above and beyonds that I put into what I offered them, it never yielded any type of true promotion. Like in February, whenever I was promoted to senior engineer, like we talked about it, that was without any type of merit increase or pay increase, or it was me doing the same thing for different customer bases and for two different managers. More work, no additional pay. So on that day that I submitted my letter of resignation, I had nothing left in me.
Salaries were scarce, right? Over the 17 years. So you really didn't get many merit increases over the 17 years.
No.
And you never received an anniversary gift.
Yeah. So I was at the company in 17 years and I never received even a mug. And this is something that I didn't post about. Whenever I posted my 17-year anniversary certificate, HR reached out to my manager and told them that you have a engineer who's celebrating a 17-year anniversary. Here's a link to the template, fill this out and present it to him. My manager submitted the link to me. I had to fill that out myself. He didn't even take out the time to write in my name for the certificate that I posted. I had to do that.
Greg,
I'm serious.
do you feel like, so it's not like a combination of things, but also, you know, they always say people don't leave companies, they leave leaders. And it sounds like if your leader would have been more of an advocate for you, or in so many words, a better leader, you think that would have kind of, because I never, and we do feel, you know, I fill out the recognition for anniversaries. I would never ask one of my direct reports to do that.
Not for themselves. But to answer your question, I think if my company had given me anything to hold on to, I was gonna be there. It got to the point where I had nothing to hold on to. And it was like, I felt like I was being hurt, not because like of disrespect or anything like that, or not because of truly being devalued. That was a side point. Like, I was really stressing out. I was really dealing with anxiety and depression too. I actually was diagnosed with anxiety and depression during this period.
And a lot of people, you know, I commend you for going out on FMLA, because a lot of people won't do that because that's not what we're used to, right? Our parents didn't do it, our grandparents didn't do it, and some of them didn't have the opportunities to do it. But like, you were able to identify this is what you needed. And I'm a huge therapy advocate. So you going to therapy is huge, but you being able to share that will hopefully help someone else, because we're in denial about some of these things, and it's just the reality of the situation. And some of it is driven by toxic work environments. But to go 17 years without any real anniversary acknowledgement, with very little salary increases, Greg, like, there are companies now who are paying $50,000 to $60,000 more than what some people are making, and giving sign-on bonuses.
Yeah.
So it's just blowing my mind for someone with so much experience. But you did make a good point too. Sometimes when you're so valued in one role and you do it so well, will a company try to keep you there selfishly versus letting you grow and flourish in another area? And that could be a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah. And that's something that I experienced in more ways than one. I talked about the time back in the November timeframe where I wanted to move into another group. Well, one of our business partners actually makes our software that I work on. And kind of a natural progression is an engineer may leave our company to work with that business partner. Well, I was told by someone within that company that my senior director told them not to hire me because I had applied for 3 positions within the company. And the senior director and their VP, you know, they work closely together or whatever. But our senior director informed their VP not to hire me. I never even got a call back for the roles. Now, mind you, I've been working on their software since 2005, and I couldn't even get a call back for an interview.
That is just, at what point does someone have the leadership courage to say no?
Well, I don't know why I was kind of stuck into that role. And I don't know the reasons, why I truly stayed there as long as I did. Other than it was familiar. But I did try to go to other places that I thought I would be beneficial and internally and externally, but literally nothing yielded from me talking to the business partner. And I know for a fact they wanted to hire me. The group that I was going to, I know for a fact that they wanted me to work in that group, but they couldn't.
So was July your last day? Was it in
Yes,
July?
July
Yeah.
15th.
Okay. So it's been maybe a little bit over 2 months.
Mhm.
I know you went fishing for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had some amazing things that have happened in where you are in your life. What do you feel like is like one of the biggest things that you have realized since you left the company? Like now that you have time to like really self-reflect about the last 17 years, you're not stressed out. Like, is there just one thing that you're like, you've realized since then?
The biggest thing that I've realized since leaving is that God is everything he claims to be. Um, I had a steady paycheck for 17 years without error. Leaving the company also meant leaving that check behind.
Right.
The reality of it is, I knew I needed to leave, so I was just gonna sell my stocks or something to afford my living. I haven't even had to sell one stock today to pay a bill. Um, I was so worried about what my life would look like without the company. And it took like the majority of my focus away from me knowing who God truly is.
Mm.
And once I made that leap of faith to walk away from the company, I haven't had to worry about any of the things that I thought was there. Um, I just realized that I'm truly blessed.
Because I know you said you basically prayed before you even sent the resignation letter, but do you feel like it was a question of faith at some point when you thought about leaving over, the last few years? Did you ever question like, what will happen if you leave? You won't be able to do this. You won't be able to do that. Like, did you ever get to that place?
Yes. Initially, I actually wanted to leave about 3 years ago. And I just felt like God was telling me it wasn't your time to leave. It's not your time to leave. And I prayed about it. I'm like, I'm stressed out. No, God don't want me stressed out. Like, why isn't it my time to leave? Which was basically a toxic situation. I truly didn't understand, but I stayed there. What I realized is that it wasn't God saying that it wasn't time for me to leave. God knew that I was always going to have questions about me leaving had I left before I given everything that I knew I could give. So God was waiting on me to get to a certain point. It wasn't, it was never God keeping me there. I just needed to truly give everything that I had to give. And it got down to me, um, I mean, it got down to a decision of my health. And I had no choice but to leave. Um, but yeah, I did question a lot, like what would happen once I left, or Would I be able to take my trip? So, I had all these questions. And I look back at even the choice of the house that I got. I didn't get it a house to kind of match my salary or anything like that. I went with what God led me to get. Because whenever I walked in this house, actually, whenever I saw the house on Zillow, I was like, yeah, this is my house. God was telling me this is my house. I walked in the house, I was like, God, this not my house. This is not my house. Um, but even that decision to go where God wanted me to go and buying the house, it prepared me for my today. Because when I'm paying for the house that I live in now, I don't have a job. Like I'm still paying for it, it's within, well, it was well within my means, and it's within my means now. So I didn't have to stick at that job to afford my house, and then my car is paid off, so I didn't have to worry about that. So God positioned me to be in my today.
Mhm. I was going to, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to talk about the preparation and you not even knowing you were being prepared, for this moment, because a lot of people do live above their means, and we are in Dallas. So we know there's a lot of thousandaires out here who want to keep up, and nothing against them, but you never know when this time will come when you have to make a decision where you have to choose yourself and your peace, or do you have to stay tied to a toxic environment? And, even, about your home, right? Like you've made a lot of beautiful repairs. So it's nothing like what you when you first purchased it.
Thank God.
It's a completely different house. And I haven't seen in person since you like initially moved in, but I've seen the photos and you've done a lot, and you've created a place where you can really enjoy it. So I do feel like there was preparation that led you to this moment. And one thing my pastor talked about, Pastor Brian Carter, is like our passion isn't always our purpose. And then sometimes our jobs are either our purpose or they fund our purpose. But do you feel like, knowing that you knew that that's not where you're supposed to be, are you at a place now where you're trying to discover your purpose, or you're not pushing yourself, or do you have an idea? Like, where are you when you think about what's next for Greg?
So I, I'm at a point to where I have an ideal of um, a purpose venture. I would actually like to have a food truck here in Dallas.
Yes.
Uh, so that's something that's on my register. I went ahead and I took the food manager certification. So I have my certifiable to be a food manager here in Dallas, and I registered and everything. Just doing the steps necessary, not knowing when I'm actually going to get the food truck or things of that nature. I want to make sure that I do all of the small things so that whenever that time comes, then I'm prepared, or I've at least done the things that are necessary on my part. Another thing is I've been applying for jobs within the same field that I've been working in for the last 17 years. I do have something potentially that I'll know more about next week. So if you could say a prayer for me,
Sure
and
will.
it's not for that job, but for God's will to be done with my life. Because I do think that it's a great opportunity, but all great opportunities are not opportunities that we should take. I really would like to be um, impactful with my next steps. And I don't know if it's the food truck, or I don't know if it's this other company. But I want to be in a place where God gets the glory from everything that I do.
You said a mouthful when you said to pray that if it's God's will, because sometimes we will pray that we get it, and that's not even meant for us. So,
Right.
after you have invested so much time with one company, you know, and I absolutely will pray for you, but if it is meant for you and it's God's will that it be done. And if it's a door that's not meant to be open, then to keep it closed. Because you've already invested so much into somewhere that didn't value. If it's another opportunity, you want to make sure it's the right opportunity, because now you know exactly what you are worth. And you're gonna go in there and negotiate your salary, your sign-on bonus. Because you know what you're capable of. So that's awesome. It's awesome to hear. Now I got to ask this question, because you went fishing for like 3 weeks. You love to cook and you can bake. Like, are you a self-care person? Like, do you make I know you work out, but do you make like very intentional time for yourself? Did you before, and are you now very intentional about pouring into yourself?
So before it got muddy, due to my work, and the stress associated with it, because I would say yes, but I got to a point to where all the things that I use as far as self-care, whether it's working out or going in the garden, getting sun and stuff, all those things I kind of threw away. And I'm getting back to the point to where those things are just as important or even more important than before. Like going to the gym, that's a daily thing for me now. Going in my garden, I don't know if it's necessarily a daily thing, but the upkeep and everything, I try to make sure that it's, at least together and everything. But I'm re-implementing those self-care, those things that I love that just are real simple but bring me joy. I'm re-implementing those things back into my life.
Good. Yay. I love to hear that. So if there's anyone who's in a toxic work environment, or, don't feel valued, have been waiting for their promotion, and they're still holding on, like, do you have any advice that you would give that person who may feel like they're in the same boat as you right now and they don't know where to go? Like, do you have any encouraging words?
Well, I think with me, my advice is going to be initially is to pray about it. Um, a lot of times we don't know many of the outside factors, but God knows everything. So being prayerful about your steps or your ventures or whether you should move or not move, um, and be intentional about the things that you pray for, because you may not just want to pray, well, God, take me from this situation. It may be structured to, God, what am I supposed to learn from my todays? Or God, please show me the lessons that I'm supposed to gather from this situation. Because you don't want to move from something that's toxic and not get all of the information and the value that you're supposed to gather from it. So make sure that when you pray, you're very intentional about the things that you pray about, and also position yourself to be able to move whenever it's time. I don't think that I mentioned, but I have an MBA too. So I was not just focused on my career in that role. I positioned myself to be able to move if other doors were to open. So you want to make sure that as you're contemplating moving, you kind of do things for yourself that will open other doors, so that whenever it's your time to move, those doors can be open, or you can position yourself to where you can walk through those doors without any issues.
That's good. Yeah, you want to make sure you keep yourself, well, you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
And you definitely did that, right? Even, with you being loyal, you have positioned yourself very well. Well, Greg, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to share, just about your journey and where you are over the last few months, that maybe I didn't ask that you want to share?
I just would like to bring awareness to uh, companies and their structure. You know, they're designed to make money either for their shareholders or whoever the owners are. You have to make sure that you hold yourself with equal importance. Because if you don't look out for yourself, no one else at the company, no matter how nice they are, no matter if they're your work friends or not, they're not going to necessarily take the things or take the steps necessary to benefit your life. So make sure that you are on your own team. And you can produce that work and everything, but make sure you're looking out for yourself.
I always look at it this way, and I've heard people say this, that they know someone who went home for the day and didn't come back to work next day because they passed away, and within hours their position was posted. And we really have to look at it that way, that like you have to be your biggest advocate, and you have to always think about yourself first. You can never put your company or your customers before yourself, because at the end of the day, when you go home, it's just you and yourself. Or if something was to happen to you, it's just going to be you. So that's definitely something huge, and always position yourself for other opportunities.
Yeah.
We're not used to not putting our eggs in one basket. I can guarantee you right now, if I was to tell my dad I'm quitting my job, he's probably gonna say, "Why are you quitting that good paying job?" To them, they don't get it. But today we get to make a different decision, because times have changed and we are more educated. You have all the skill sets that you can go on to probably do 2 levels higher than what you were actually going for, Greg. So I'm just happy you were willing to share it with me, and share it with others, because as young Black professionals, we have to know that we don't have to settle. We always talk about settling with romantic partners, but we don't have to settle in the workplace as well. And we have to be comfortable enough to know what we're worth and our value, and stand behind that, even if that means walking away from toxic environments.
Yes.
So
I absolutely agree.
yeah. So I thank you so much, Greg. It was a pleasure talking with you. And I can't wait to hear some of the feedback that we get from this. So I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. It goes in line with my next steps and my next purpose. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. I was like, you know what? I got to talk to him. You are the first person
Really?
that officially to get my podcast going. It's going to be Leaving a Rich Legacy with Jessica Rich. And it's not just about finances. It's almost like a story to my younger self, things that I wished would have been talked about: therapy and self-love and self-care in relationships, but then also the corporate and career side of it, because I feel like, to your point, my company is all I know, right? And there's just so many conversations that I feel like in our community we don't have, that are so important. And this is going to be one of the first that will be aired. So I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Bye-bye.